Oh, there it goes. Whoa. Virus update and the Earl topia mistakes. Earl topia mistakes. I just tried to. Well, I did it. I put those doors on the shed by myself, and that was messed up. I need a robot. All right, so a virus update. Used to exercise all the time. And with work was a big workout, and I haven't been working for a while. Been taking time off. I wasn't fired or let go or anything. And Aquila is getting old and has body issues now. He falls down a lot. He has trouble walking, and stopped really walking. So just eat. Been making bread. Getting bored. Just played a ton of video games, watched a ton of movies. I guess that's the thing is like, sometimes I see retired people go back to work because that's what you get used to doing. You have structure. So your retirement has to be something that you do every day, or you're just going to sit and watch movies all day or play video games or whatever. It'd be nice if like I was, I put that deck in. It'd be nice if I was building decks every day and using up the extra paint I have, buying some more, painting the inside of my house, getting up on the roof and cleaning off the shingles. Just don't do that every day, do you? You try to avoid it, in fact. All right, that's the virus update. Putting on weight, getting bored. I think if I did retire, if I even worked part-time, I would have to make sure I live the kind of life where you do lots of travel, or had extracurricular activities. Like I'd really like to be taking yoga classes through all this. I'd be ripped instead of chubby. All right. The Earltopia mistakes. Now I did a thing about this on Earltopia, in that if something goes wrong, someone has a drug problem, someone steals a lot, like someone has irrational fears, like that isn't a bad thing necessarily, because what that is an opportunity for society as a whole to learn and help this person. What can we learn from this person with drug addiction? Why we solve this person's problems, and it would come from all directions. It just wouldn't be like, we'll send him to a therapist. It wouldn't be. It would be like, we'd be sending him to the university. It would be like, people have an opportunity to meet this person, talk with this person, and as part of their treatment, like learn the violin, take up dancing, try a few jobs at a work site in forestry, try some tasks at accounting, like become a triathlete, like everybody would be like taking a part in this person's life. So this person's solution is not just having to like be some one place and talk to this one people, but really just start being around the community. Here, all right, that's a start. You see a problem, right? You have to recognize that one problem, that one person that has that one problem. We need to learn all about that as soon as possible, and learn as much about the different ways to solve this person's problem. It can't just be one way or two or three ways. It has to be a huge amount of ways, because you don't know what didn't work. Like learning the violin didn't work for this guy. It might work for the next. Learning about why this person has problems to begin with might help the next person not even get to that stage. So that's the very beginning. The very end is, I can't remember the name of the book, but it's a book that is just about how the airline industry globally pretty much just like studied mistakes. What are the mistakes that happen all around the world with every single airline? And what are the common denominators? And there were a huge amount of common denominators. You imagine like someone makes a mistake on one part of the world, and the other part of the world, the opposite side of the world, someone from a different culture with completely different setup, with completely different training, makes the exact same mistake. It's the mistake. It's not the people. It's not their training. It's not their culture. It's you press this button, press this button, press this button, pull that lever, and the ground drops out from underneath you. You need to know that. One of the common denominators was a large mistake tends to be the third mistake. The largest mistake couldn't have taken place without the two mistakes that lead up to the. All right, examples of you have to act the second that one person has the drug problem. I remember when homeless people camped in Portland, when the first time it happened, because people were talking about it. I mean, this was pre-internet. The TV shut off at midnight. There'd be like an American flag, and then it'd just go to static. So you heard about things word of mouth. So imagine an entire city saying like, have you seen that homeless person down along by the railroad tracks? Everyone's like, I have seen that person. That's mistake number one. And then you just let it go until you get mistake number 3, where you have something like 60,000 people living homeless in, is it Los Angeles? I don't know. You got to start right at the beginning. But so you got to understand that like the little crack, you see a little teeny crack, and you think, man, that's not that big of a deal. It is a big deal. A little crack is a big deal. It's like, would you think little cracks in dams are no big deal? No, you wouldn't. Would you think a little crack in a window in your airplane is a big deal? No, you would think it was a big deal. So that homeless guy underneath the bridge is a big deal. They're like, what I saw that different different cities are starting to string that razor wire that typically you would see in like military or like insane prisons around street signs on the freeways, because people are spray painting the entire thing, so they have to fix it, and then so they do razor wire around it. That was waiting way too long. Where are we? 7 minutes? 8 minutes? Way too long to address what's happening. It's kind of like when people, there was a bridge. I remember another, like when I was younger, there was a bridge that needed work, and the city council or whoever's in charge of that kind of thing they're saying like, let's actually just replace the whole thing. It's like a 2-lane bridge, no sidewalks or anything like that. Let's replace the whole thing. Let's make it 4 lanes and put in sidewalks and have a bike path. And everyone's like, that's going to cost a fortune. And they're like, well, but we need to do it. And they're like, well, yeah, but we don't need to do it now. And they're like, if you wait 10 years, that bridge that we could replace right now for X amount of money will cost X amount of money. Like, but they're like, well, that will come out of someone else's budget, right? Like, no, no. Like, it's the whole idea of like, if you could buy milk right now for $0.25, like, and if you wait till next week, it's $1. Like, well, maybe someone else will pay for the milk. No, you buy it when it's $0.25. So that's the thing. You want to wait 10 years and pay a fortune for the bridge? You want to wait 2-3 decades and have 60,000 people without homes in your city? Like, because then what's the solution? Well, the solution at that point in time is construct 60,000 homes spread out around the community, and then spread this homeless population amongst the whole community. How's that? For instance, that one homeless guy. I remember my father and a couple of his friends, military buddies, saying like, it looks like a military guy. I don't know how they made that, but they all thought it. And now that's a fairly known thing that people get out of the military. They've been through an experience you can't even imagine. They try to reintegrate. 10 minutes. They try to reintegrate into society, and they can't. And so, how long did it take before, like, we start seeing military people start camping along the roads? We're like, well, maybe we needed to do it to the very first guy, the very first time you noticed that. Then that needed to take place with everyone in the military. This they say, like, I just set up a bunch of wood to dry. They say, like, well, that costs a lot of money. It's like, well, if you can't afford that, then you can't afford war. Like, that has to be part of the price. That's the whole thing of, like, we have a bridge that we need to build. Like, well, luckily we've been setting aside money year after year after year, like, people do in their homes for, one day I might have to re-roof. So I've budgeted that off the side. One day I might have to fix my car, replace my car. So you budget that off to the side. But city governments are like, got to spend my budget, like that, because that's what they're allowed to get away with, except for then they're like, well, we don't have any money for this homeless problem. It's like every single little problem that you see, that from the very beginning, like a city, like, well, we need to fix this sidewalk, but we ran out of money for this year. They're like, so that's right there, fixing that little sidewalk. Well, then how can we fix that sidewalk? And then next year, if there's 2 or 3 sidewalks broken, we have the money set aside. We know how much it costs. We have people that have already been trained to do it. Like, we've thought ahead, and then we just keep thinking ahead, further and further and further ahead. In Earl topia, I had this. 12 minutes. I gotta stop. In Earl topia, I had like a 5-year idea. Be ready for everything that might take place 5 years in advance. Just in advance. You can't be ready for everything, but when you start seeing things where you're not ready for everything, at least then you're not stretched to your limit to deal with this new thing that you've never planned for, as opposed to having all this wide variety of problems and then just one more problem shows up and you're like, oh, get to that eventually, I guess. But you might not get to that this decade or the decade after, and then you have bridges falling apart, and the reason why they're falling apart is because bits of them are falling off and killing like the 30, 40, 200, 300, 500 people, 1,000 people sleeping underneath all these bridges. That's what I do. Stay home, get stressed about stuff that I can't fix. Think about it, I guess.